You should all see it on the screen.
Very good, thank you. Just a reminder to everybody to try and keep muted when you can, and also keep your cameras, for councillors to keep your cameras turned on so that we can record your participation in the meeting where possible. Welcome everybody to the open session, the agenda of the ordinary meeting of Tasman Council for the 24th of June 2020. We respectfully acknowledge the original traditional custodians of this land, the Piadami people of the Paradimi language group. We respectfully acknowledge the Tasmanian Aboriginal communities and elders, past, present and emerging. Just a reminder to everybody that we're recording and video recording the council meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. Council will conduct the ordinary meetings using remote technologies, and the audio recordings will be made available, as well as the video recording, to the public as soon as practical after each meeting via council's website, except for any part held in closed section. As the meeting is being held remotely due to the COVID-19 pandemic, emergency public attendance will not be physically possible. With public question time, the opportunity is to submit a question before 5 p.m. on the night before the council meeting.
Excuse me, Mr. Bear. Can you please state the time, please? The time of start.
Can you find the time? So declare the meeting open at, would have been 1:04 p.m.
Thank you.
Just before we start, over the last few weeks, I may have missed in mentioning and appreciating our volunteers in the Tasman. This municipality is heavily reliant on its volunteers and all the work they do within our municipality, and without their support and the hours of dedication to our municipality, we wouldn't thrive as such as we do. This was brought home to me by attending a presentation to the volunteers at the local ambulance service on the weekend. And Councillor Garrett, thank you very much for attending with me, to give thanks to the work they do and the hours that they spend in the community. So to all our volunteers out there, thank you very much. We're all present, so we have nil apologies. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interests? We have nil. Do we have any perceived interests? We have nil. We listed item 5, correspondence received. So we have a list of correspondence there on the agenda. Can I have a move that we receive that correspondence, please?
Moved.
Move Councillor Garrett, second and Deputy Mayor. I'll put that to the vote that we receive that correspondence. Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
That's a yes. It's carried unanimously. Public question time in accordance with Regulation 31 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Act. Obviously, we've got the different situation at the moment, so questions have to be submitted before 5 p.m. on the night before the meeting. So we have a question there from the Countess Antonia Scrivenage. 171 Lookout Road, Port Arthur, to which there's an answer there from the General Manager. That has gone out to her, I do believe. General Manager, response? General Manager, you're actually on mute.
My apologies to you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, she has received it, and she's also received it again this morning. Staff actually sent her out the particular pages for her again today, so she can see it before the meeting.
Thank you very much. Questions on notice was Neil. Number 8, questions without notice. We have Neil. Applications for leave of absence. We have Neil. Motions on notice. We have Neil. So we'll move on to 11, confirmations of minutes. The minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, the 27th of May, 2020. We all received an amended minutes from Lee, our office manager. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Barwick. And a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Barwick, did you have anything further on the minutes?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kennedy?
No, thank you.
Any other councillors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple. Item 10, the motion should have the word setting, not set in it, and in the same motion it should be in the review and not in review, so that's one point. The other one is my pecuniary interest. The application overshadowed my property, not the other way around. And under item 16.4, which was a pretty simple one, I agree with the motion and the resolution, but it's not my recollection of how the matter was handled. I moved the motion. It was seconded by another councillor, and then it was disallowed by the mayor. I then also asked for it to be recorded that I believe the mayor had not followed proper meeting procedure in confusing an officer recommendation with a councillor motion.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. I'm happy with most of those amendments, except with the 16.4. If you had been accepted as the mover of the motion, you then wouldn't have been able to move an amendment. So I'm happy as the minutes read. Any other councillors got any comments? If there's no other comments with that, has the office manager, Lee, have you noted Councillor Beard's other corrections in respect to other items other than 16.4?
Yes, I have.
So I'll put those amended minutes, less the corrections from 16.4. Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Kennedy?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Stacey?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
And Councillor Beard?
Against.
I'll take that as a yes and a yes from myself. It's carried unanimously.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I was against.
Okay, sorry. Or that is carried with councillor Beard against.
Is it appropriate to record why I was against in the minutes for the next meeting?
I think you've had your say, councillor Beard. I think we'll keep moving on.
The minutes are a reflection of the meeting, Mr Mayor.
And it's carried that the minutes were accepted without your other amendments. Number 12 is notification of council workshops. We've been doing quite a bit of workshops in the lead up to the budget and other projects. They're listed on the agenda. We don't have any supplementary items for the agenda. We'll move on to 14, council reports, the Mayor's report. Can I have a mover, please?
Move.
Councillor Garrett. And a seconder.
Seconded.
Councillor Barwick. We're just receiving the report unless anyone has any comments. Not that, I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Do any other councillors have reports to do with meetings they've had on councillors' behalf? Councillor Griffith.
Yeah, look, just very quickly, because we had Mark Etheridge along this morning, I found that what he was saying very interesting, to be quite honest with you. But I'd just like to impress that I do believe that it's well within council interest to have and develop an ongoing relationship with the TBTA. I think we have some very common ground to cover there. It appears that we might have a little bit of a problem with what came up this morning with regards to the logo. I haven't checked out what the legals are there, but I'm quite sure that ASIC's view would be that you can't use it without permission, and I would urge the council to consider very quickly, because their printing is going to the printer. Well, it's actually at the printer. I would urge that council might view giving them permission to use that as urgently as possible, so that we can go ahead and get printing done and so forth. Of course, that would need to be checked out with ASIC first to get to check the legal aspects of it, but I think it's in the same interest, council and the TBTA, to be, you know, to have that same logo. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Any other councillors? If not, can I have a mover, please, to accept Councillor Griffiths' report?
I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett, and a seconder.
I'll second it.
Councillor Finnerty. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty. Councillor Finnerty, sorry, you're on mute.
Yes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
And yes, carried unanimously. Thank you for your report, Councillor Griffiths. Do you mind just putting your hand down, Councillor Griffiths, just so I don't get confused? Thank you. Council acting as a planning authority. I'd like to advise, in accordance with the provisions of Part 2 of Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulations 2015, the intention of Council to act as a planning authority in pursuant of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 is to be noted. In accordance with Regulation 25, the Council will act as a planning authority in respect to those matters appearing under item 15 on this agenda, inclusive of any supplementary items. Can I have a mover, please, that we move into planning?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty, the seconder.
Yes.
I'll second.
Sorry, I missed that one. So
I'm not sure. I said I'd second.
you're moving your hands, Councillor Barwick. I'm going to go with you. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett. Did I get you?
No. Yes, I'm in favour.
Thank you. Takes a bit of keeping up with the list. It's carried unanimously, and we're into planning. So 15.1, 10 Penzance Road, Eagle Hawk Neck.
So moved.
And there's a recommendation on page 19. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved again.
Councillor Beard. And a seconder.
I'll second him. Oh.
Deputy Mayor. Councillor Beard.
Yeah, very quickly, pretty straight up and down report. It's good to see activity and building work still coming through for council to consider, particularly at these times. The only 2 points I'd like to note is the one around sewerage and stormwater. The conditions in the permit do cover off those 2 issues, but I do note that it's a reoccurring theme throughout that area, the issue of stormwater and sewage, and we really need to deal with that as a whole of area rather than piecemeal. But the conditions that are in the permit certainly cover it off.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Deputy Mayor.
No, I'm satisfied with the recommendation, and that's all.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to comment? Okay, yes, I'll also note the issues with the drainage and the sewage, and it's good that our environmental health officer is quite aware, and hopefully we'll be keeping a close eye on that surrounding area in the future. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Beard.
In favour.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
And yes is carried unanimously. We'll move on to Car Park, Tasman Interim Planning Scheme 2015, end of Stormley Road, CT 173844/1. And there's a recommendation on page 30. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Barwick.
I'm happy to
And a
second.
Deputy Mayor. Councillor Barwick.
No, happy with the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barwick. Deputy Mayor.
No comment either. Thank you. It's all very straightforward.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to comment?
I'll just make the comment that it's utterly required. that it's a very good proposal. And I assume the two representatives are happy. I know Parks was working with one of them. Is there anyone to answer that?
Through the mayor. I haven't been briefed by Parks as to the outcome of the discussions. I think there was some on Friday, but I haven't heard the outcome. Sorry.
That's okay.
But I think as recommended, most of the representatives' concerns will be addressed.
Thank you. Thank you, Shane. Sorry, I should have introduced you, Shane Wells, who's our contract planning officer.
Yeah, thanks,
Shane.
Because there are two properties that, you know, have driveways directly there. But I think they've both developed good relationships with Parks anyway. That's been my understanding.
Thank you, Councillor Finnerty. Any other councillors? Okay, I think that's been a good outcome, and I think the change to the plan with the to do with the accesses of the new car park, and it looks quite a good design. If it's anything to go on what has been done around the municipality with car parks recently to do with parks, so I think it should be a really good outcome for the area and hopefully enhance what's there at the moment. So I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Barwick?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yep.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried unanimously. And can I have a mover to move out of, stop acting as a planning authority, move out of planning, please?
Yes.
So moved.
Councillor Finnerty, and a second by Councillor Barwick. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Stacey?
Yes.
Yes, it's carried unanimously. Now we move on to 16 department reports. Recommendation to receive the reports on page 38. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move.
Deputy Mayor Stacey, and a second.
I'll second.
Councillor Garrett just got in there, I think. Deputy Mayor.
I don't think I have got anything. Oh, sorry, I'm just losing my agenda. I'm sorry. I have to go back to it. I think I had a couple of notes in there. I did, I noted the report, obviously it was in correspondence from Parks about the Ranger program, which seems like that was a really good outcome again. And I know our NRM officer mentioned that in his section. Sorry, I'm losing the plot and I can't get my finger to work on the screen properly. I don't think I had any particular comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Garrett.
I don't have any comments to make, but it looks like everyone outside's been very busy, so that's good to see.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Any other councillors? Okay, yes, there's a very good report in the correspondence that came in to do with the Discovery Ranger program, which is a good thing for the young ones in the community to be involved with. Also, I note there in the report there that there's the letter from Minister Gutwin to do with extending the food licences until December for the food businesses, which is a small help out to those businesses in the area. So I'll put that to the vote. Deputy Mayor,
Yes.
Councillor Garrett,
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty,
Yes.
Councillor Barwick,
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths,
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Thank you, and yes, carried unanimously. Uh, 16.2, the monthly finance report. Nice to note there that it's the General Manager and also Megan Braslin, who is our new Contract Executive Finance Officer. So please pass on our thanks to Megan. Can I have a mover to, please? Councillor Garrett. And a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Barwick. Councillor Garrett.
Look, I don't have any comment to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Barwick.
No, I don't have any comment either. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to comment on the finance report? If not, I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett.
In favour.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yep.
Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
And yes, carried unanimously. Uh, 16.3, policy adoption, policy number C30, street library policy. Recommendation on page 40. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move it.
Councillor Finnerty. And a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Garrett. Councillor Finnerty.
Yes, I'm very happy with this policy. Thank you very much to the staff for developing this. And I've noted that there are a few beautiful looking libraries at, now where were they? Cunha Premedina, Ubina Road, is that correct?
Yeah.
And then we've got one up at Jackson Park, haven't we? And I think there's one at Summers Bay. Is that, I'm not quite sure. Are there any more around the municipality?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe so, unless Melissa has another one, who was the author of the report, whether she can report there's another one that I've missed.
We'll welcome Melissa Gear, who's our Building and Development Manager.
Thank you. Through the chair, there is actually another street library down at Summers Bay, down towards the Summers Bay G, down at the far end there. Also had inquiries regarding the street library in the Port Arthur area, just near the cemetery. So the that isn't there yet. So we'll have to assess that application and go through this process if the policy is developed.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I've just noticed in the motion there that it should actually read policy C30.
Oh, okay.
So the mover and seconder are happy with that, that is changed?
Yes, I didn't pick that up, Mr. Mayor. Very good.
I'm happy for it to be changed too.
Thank you. And Lee, our office manager, did you get that little change?
Can Melissa confirm whether it is actually 30?
Sorry, through the chair.
I believe it's 39.
I was going to say that too. It is 39. It's the heading that's incorrect.
And I've changed
Okay.
both in 15 minutes.
So the policy would read C031.
39. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors wish to comment? Oh, sorry.
Yes, if I may.
Sorry, hang on. Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Garrett, did I give you an opportunity?
No, you didn't. All I wanted to do was echo Councillor Fennety's comments. I know the street libraries that are in use at the moment are being very well used. I use them and I know a lot of other people are too, so it's good to see.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Deputy Mayor.
I'm sorry, I was actually going to jump in with a slightly different motion. I too believe this is a fantastic thing, and I love the library's idea. And thanks, Mel, for all your work on the policy. But I just have a couple of little tiny things in the wording of the policy, and I'm not sure what to do with them now. For example, under section 2, scope, in the second paragraph, it says council will consent to the placement of a street library on public land subject to the considerations detailed in this policy. I'm thinking that perhaps you would say may instead of a will, just to give that. Will says, yes, we're going to accept it, subject to everything. But then later on, it does say that we could introduce other things as well. I've also just wondered about, we don't mention the size of the library anywhere. And also, they're all nice and compact normally, but I'm just wondering if it shouldn't mention something about the dimensions. Under section 3.3, the first 2 dot points, the street library is to be located directly adjacent to the private property boundary, except for when it's on council reserve or road reserve, or if it's or on private property. Sorry, that's what I meant to say, except for when it is on private property, because it could actually be on private property. Yeah, and that was the other section. There was about the size. What have I highlighted here? Oh, one other comment under section 3.4, where it talks about the second dot point, ensure the street library is well maintained and the reading materials are non-offensive and are appropriate for all age groups. I think that we could actually take off the and appropriate for all age groups, and just non-offensive, I think, because you could have, if it's not appropriate for a 4-year-old, then it's not appropriate to have it there. So I just have those comments. I'm wondering how, should I move an amendment to include those changes, or?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, we were sort of given an opportunity to make comments beforehand with the policy. So considering some of those are quite substantial wording changes, perhaps we defer the policy until the next meeting, as it's not necessarily urgent that we pass it today. General Manager, can I just have some advice on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you can pass it today with the particular amendments if you'd like to, or we can do either. I mean, it isn't actually urgent that it needs to happen right at this point in time. And if all councillors would like to have more time to read those amendments in full at their leisure, instead of being rushed, we can defer it if you like. That is fine.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second an amendment if you want to put one up, Maria.
Look, I think it could be fairly much dealt with now. They're not major things, Mayor Spalding. I think the main thing for me was really around just the will under scope, change that word will consent to may consent, and to perhaps include something about the size of these structures, and obviously refrigerator size that we see happening at the moment is a good thing. And I would suggest we just remove that wording and appropriate for all age groups.
So Deputy Mayor, you'd like to move an amendment?
I'll move an amendment to that, yeah, and I think that'll get it dealt with. I don't want to hold it up because I think it's an excellent idea, and I thank Mel very much for her work so far. And I apologise I didn't get feedback. I actually didn't get to read it until last night.
Okay. I've got a seconder for that. So Deputy Mayor, would you like to please reread your amendment?
I'm sorry about that. Okay, well, I think the only ones I'm majorly concerned about is under scope, the second paragraph and the second line, council change the word will consent to may consent. Under section 3.3, I think would be appropriate to have a further dot point to indicate how big the street libraries could be. And I don't know what the dimensions are, but around about a refrigerator size is I guess the sort of wording I would like to have included there. And under 3.4, ongoing obligations, on the second dot point, to remove the words at the very last and are appropriate for all age groups.
No, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Beard, you're happy to second that?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, you're happy then? Nothing else to say at this stage?
No.
Councillor Beard?
No, all been said.
Any other councillors wish to comment on that?
My only comment is that I would prefer that the suggestion that we make the changes or the council staff do, and that it comes back to council next time, because I can't quite, it's too difficult. I'm reading everything off a little phone. So I would like it deferred, so till next month, because it's a policy. So do I do an amendment to that, or I can just say no to this, whatever.
Councillor Kennedy, any other councillors? Councillor Garrett? Okay, no other councillors wish to comment. Look, I know they're only fairly minor amendments to the policy, but I'm really uncomfortable with us doing this in the middle of a meeting, because I don't get to see the policy as a whole. So it's not an urgent policy. I think it should be rewritten and redistributed to all councillors to read as a whole. So, Deputy Mayor, would you like to wind up?
Yeah, look, I hear what you're saying too, and I think that is the fair thing to do, is to have it come back to the next meeting if that's okay. So, what do I do now? I'm probably going to vote against my amendments. So it goes back to the original amendment, and I'll vote against that too. We propose another amendment then, perhaps. Unless we've got to deal with the amendment before we can go have another amendment. So let's deal with. Yeah.
That's okay.
That's probably the one person. That's probably the one person that hasn't said anything so far. I'd like to move an amendment that the policy be deferred until the next council meeting.
I'll second that.
You can't. You moved the original motion.
Oh, did I? Sorry.
You can't. You moved the original motion.
Sorry.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jan.
I haven't had
Okay.
either.
Mayor, we obviously have to deal with the motions on the books at the moment. We move to another amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy
One
Mayor.
at a time.
Apologies, Councillor Griffiths. We'll just put Deputy Mayor's amended motion to the vote, and then we'll come back.
Point of order, Deputy Mayor. The motion's been put, and you're supposed to move to deal with the motions as they've been put and then move backwards. So my motion for deferment actually gets dealt with prior to the Deputy Mayor's amendment. And if my motion is defeated, it goes back to the Deputy Mayor's. If that's defeated, it goes back to the original motion. That's the correct procedure.
I don't think so, actually. You've got to deal with the amendment.
Okay.
You can't have an amendment to an amendment. You can have an amendment and then another one if that one's lost.
Right. Let's just move on, get it done. Wasting a quarter of an hour on nothing.
Order, please, Councillor Griffiths. We'll just move on. I'll put the Deputy Mayor Stacey's to the vote. Deputy Mayor?
Against.
Councillor Beard?
For.
Councillor Griffiths?
Oh, I'm not sure now. Against.
Councillor Garrett?
I'm for.
Councillor Barwick?
Against.
Councillor Finnerty?
Against.
And I'm against.
Right.
So that's lost. And that was Councillor Beard and Councillor Garrett were for the motion. And the motion was lost. So we go back to the original motion. Would somebody like to move an amendment to the original motion? Councillor Griffiths, did you have an amendment to the original motion?
Oh, yes. I'd like to move an amendment to the motion to defer the policy adoption, policy number C39, I believe, until the next council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Do we have a seconder?
I'd like to second that. Thank you.
Councillor Barwick? Any comments from anyone? Councillor Griffiths, I think it's all pretty self-explanatory.
Correct.
I've got a comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Beard?
Look, I'm going to vote in favour of it. The only reason is because we would actually default back to the original motion, and then we wouldn't have the chance to make the changes. So for that reason, I'll be voting for the recommendation, or sorry, for the motion, the amendment. I'll get them all right. But I think it was pretty minor and a bit silly to be spending this much time on it.
Councillor Beard,
I'm happy to vote in favour. I just wonder if we can let the lady know who's got a proposal before council for a street library, if we could just give her a heads up on where it's at, because I know she's very keen to get one started.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Yes. I'll put that to the vote, and the motion is to defer until the next council meeting while the amendments are made, and I'll encourage any other councillors. Melissa will resend the policy with the amendments, and any other councillors to wish to have input before the next meeting, encourage them to do so. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
And yes, it's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to
Mayor's holding that now becomes the motion, and so you just
apologies. I'll put that is now forms the motion. I'll put the motion again. Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
I'm not sure. Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Yes. And it's carried unanimously, and that is the motion. Thank you. Now we'll move on to.
Mr Mayor, I actually want to move this motion coming up. I want to move.
Just before, sorry, Councillor Barwick, just before you start, I will just let you know that I have a motion. Councillor Beard has forwarded me a motion, so if you'd allow me to read that out, please.
Oh, don't know that I'm going to allow you
just
to move my alternative motion first, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, which is okay, Mr Mayor. What I did was I took the time to write down all the discussions that we had, so I've picked up everything you raised, Councillor Barwick. But by all means, go through the process.
Look, sorry, I hadn't even started. Sorry, Councillor Barwick, I hadn't sort of even got onto what we're moving on to. So sorry, but yeah, please just bear with me. So we're moving on to 16.4, which is the Eagle Hawk Neck Action Community Task Force (ENAC) request for financial contribution towards the construction of stage 1 of the Eagle Hawk Neck Coastal Foreshore Track, which Councillor Beard has sent me in motion. I'm just trying to get this process right. Councillor Beard's done the right thing and sent this motion to me. So I'll just read that out and see if we can get a seconder for it. Council resolved to provide in-kind support and financial contribution of up to $120,000 towards the construction of stage 1 of the Eagle Hawk Neck Coastal Foreshore Track that is located on council-owned land and as well the preparation and design and drawings and specifications for the remaining stages of the proposed Eagle Hawk Neck Coastal Foreshore Track. B, the funding be provided from the COVID-19 funding source. C, that the funding is based on the condition that ENACT receive funding as committed from the Tasmanian Community Fund. D, Council develop a pedestrian and cyclist connectivity strategy for the municipality. Now that's been provided by Councillor Beard. Do I have somebody to second that?
Before you vote, sorry, excuse me, through Mr Mayor, I've just emailed that motion to all councillors in your email that Councillor Beard had sent to the Mayor and myself. I just thought if you like to have a bit of time to read that, it just might be clearer if you see it written as well, just to be clear. But that's up to you, Mr Mayor, how you want to proceed.
I'm not exactly sure the last dot point is relevant to the motion, Mr Mayor.
Has everybody received that email?
No.
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 Probably received it, but I've got two machines and both of them are in use for doing other things.
Yeah.
May I say something, Mr Mayor?
Councillor Finnerty.
It was just that I agree with the substance in Councillor Beard's motion, but could it be worthwhile separating off the policy, the footpath policy, off from the ENACT?
Councillor Beard, are you happy to remove dot point D at this stage?
But still have it.
Not at this stage, because we need to see if we get a seconder. But then Councillor Finnerty is quite okay to move an amendment, so that can be dealt with. So, but no, it stands as it is, and I've got good reasons why D is there.
Okay, that's right.
All right.
Are all councillors happy that they understand the motion?
Oh, here it is.
I've just got the email and I understand it.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, well, I've got a motion on the books, and now I've got a mover and a seconder. Councillor Beard, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suppose we've talked about this project a lot over the last 12, 18 months, and it's just basically trying to get the ducks in order. I'll talk about D and the reason for that, but it'll make sense as I go along. It's basically in a number of parts, and my apologies, I did to the other councillors, but I sent it through to try and capture all the thoughts at the time that we discussed. So hence it went through just to the Mayor and the General Manager. The $120,000 is really the sum of money to make a good start, and also in order to, I suppose, get and it's probably not the right words, but a feel-good community project moving along quickly. All the hard work's been done by ENACT in regards to the design, the planning applications and everything else that goes with it. And it's a very enthusiastic group, well represented within the ENACT group of people from within the community. The design, I think, will need some close attention, particularly in areas where there is very little room to put a track through safely. However, that'll be undertaken obviously in the design stage and doesn't affect stage one. The COVID-19 funding source was really picking up a good idea from Councillor Barwick to basically use that money for stimulus within the community. The condition, and it was slightly not as I wrote it, but the intent was there. But C was written that funding is based on a condition that ENACT receive funding as communicated from the Tasmanian Community Fund. So it's communicated rather than provided for. So we've got all of that correspondence, and that ties back to the funding. So it's really about getting on with the project, partly funded by the community, partly funded by council, but I think we've got to keep a real close eye on the project and from an operational perspective, manage it through and not let it get away on us. The final point I'll make is just on D, and the reason for this is that we're making a lot of decisions as council based on a particular need at a particular time, but not looking at the whole of the municipality in a strategic sense. The councillors through the workshops, we talked a lot about connectivity, and I've been on and on about community planning, but unless we have the structure within our plans and our policies, then it becomes ad hoc. And I think the work's been done by ENACT. It fits very nicely from a tourism and a pedestrian safety point of view, and therefore the D does not stop A, B and C happening. D is simply giving us as a council a commitment to go forward and do some really robust planning to make sure our community is connected between, from a pedestrian and a cyclist point of view. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Griffith.
I fully support it. I can't add anything more to that. I fully support all sections of the motion.
Any other councillors? Councillor Barwick.
No, nothing to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barwick. General Manager, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could just, before councillors make a decision and before you vote, Councillor Beard, would you be happy to include the very last point of the original motion, B, because otherwise it won't form part of the budget. So we need to add that the 2020-21 capital budget be amended to include the provision of these funds. It needs to tie back into the budget, please. Thank you.
Happy with that, Mr. Mayor.
And
Do you want
Councillor Griffith, happy with that?
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor Kennedy.
I was just going to say, does it need an amendment to add that in? Because I'm happy to do that, or can we just do it? That's all
I think if everyone in a second are happy with that. I'm happy.
Yes.
Councillor Kennedy, anything else to add?
No, I'm happy with it.
Thank you. Councillor Griffith. Garrett, sorry.
I'm happy with it.
And Deputy Mayor, anything to add?
No, nothing to add. Thank you. I could see Councillor Finnerty's point at perhaps the last point going into a separate motion to give that its own importance, if you like. And I think that's where Councillor Finnerty was coming from. Whether that went as a separate motion or not, but anyway, it's as long as it's somewhere, I guess.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, apologies, Councillor Barwick. I'm sort of happy Councillor Beard covered things that we talked about in the workshop and some of the concerns I have. Councillor Beard, I guess the only concern I have, I don't have a problem with us developing a connectivity strategy. The only problem I have there was to do with timelines and when as councillors would expect that to be finished. But I think it's a good thing to head towards. So I think we've covered everything pretty much with the added piece to the motion that the 2021 capital budget be amended to provide the provisions of these funds. Councillor Beard, to finish up.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's later on in the report, but we've got a proposed budget and capital works program which includes some unallocated funding towards pedestrian paths within the municipality. So we did discuss this and the need for a strategy to be developed before that those projects are actually prioritised. So I think it is an important part, and I think bringing it to this council meeting, sorry, Councillor Benny, and bringing it towards this forward to this meeting actually gives us time, because we'd actually be another 4 weeks down the track. So tying it together, I think is a good thing. Great project, well done and act. I'm looking forward to actually the first sod being turned over and getting on with this one. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Stacey.
Yes.
It's a yes, so it's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. 16.5, the rates resolution for 2020-21. We've got a recommendation on page 46. Can I have a mover, please?
Moved.
Councillor Garrett. And seconder.
I'm happy to second.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Garrett.
I think it's all quite self-explanatory. I don't have any comments to make. I know we've discussed it at length during the workshops.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Deputy Mayor.
No comment. I guess I'm being a little bit trusting because I normally would go back and just double check the figures, but I'm assuming that all is right there and it's just matching last year's. We haven't got any rate increase as per our previous decisions. So no comment other than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other councillors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Beard.
The only thing I'd like to add is, whilst there is no rate increase, that's a cumulative effect going forward. So if you've basically not getting an increase on the prior year's increase, if you know what I mean. So it'll be with us for a long time. I'm very comfortable with the way that that we are able to accommodate this. I think there's a lot of municipalities that aren't so fortunate, I suppose, as having the structure of their business the same as what our structure of our business is and our income dependence on rates versus other fees and charges. So it's a good thing, able to be accommodated. The council's not going to be in a position in 12 months' time where this will be a large impact.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other councillors? If not, I'd just like to echo that this does have a long-term effect, but as the community will be also carrying the long-term effect throughout the whole wide world at the moment. So I think thanks to our good financial management in the past, I think we are very lucky that we can actually provide this as some relief for our ratepayers in our municipality. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Fennerty?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
And yes, it's carried unanimously. 16.6, draft annual plan 2020-21. The mover.
So moved.
Happy to
Thank you,
second.
Councillor Garrett. And a seconder, Councillor Beard.
Yeah.
Councillor Garrett.
No comment to make, thank you.
Councillor Beard.
The only comment I'd make is it's nice to have a draft annual plan which just sort of reflects what's going to happen. The really important piece of work that we've got to do is the strategic planning side and actually getting our community plans in order to form the strategic plan. So it's sort of a bit of this is our business going forward, but that real strategic work, I think that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other councillors wish to comment? If not, I'll put that to the vote. In accordance with Section 71 of the Local Government Act, Council adopts the draft annual plan 2021. Councillor Garrett.
In favour.
Councillor Beard.
In favour.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Councillor Fennerty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, is carried unanimously. Uh, 16.7, draft annual budget estimates for 2021, with the amendments the General Manager sent through last night, and then also with the changes we've just made as well. Is that correct, General Manager?
Yes, that's correct. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do believe Councillor Griffiths is not with us at the moment. Are you aware? Has he officially left the meeting? He's back.
Councillor Griffiths is right here, but he had to do something that you didn't want to be a part of, General Manager.
Okay, but we do need to note when councillors do leave the meeting. So I'll have to put you down as leaving the meeting and coming back.
No, you don't need to, because I didn't leave the meeting. I was in the same room.
We're video calling Councillor Griffiths, so with respect, it's the video that is what we're basing it on.
Okay, moving forward, can I have a mover, please?
Moved.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. And a seconder?
I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Garrett.
I don't have any comment to make except to thank the General Manager and the staff for the enormous amount of work they've put into the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett.
Thank you.
Councillor Beard.
Councillor Garrett stole my thunder. I really do appreciate the work that's been put in because there was a lot of movement and a lot of, I suppose, priorities that the councillors had for their own particular areas. And, you know, I've been quite outspoken at times and I certainly recognise that myself, but it is in speaking on behalf of the community. But no, well done. Also glad that we've got enough money in there for project management so that we can get through our capital works program for the year. So that's a good move. To actually operate a modest surplus, well, I think that's a deficit now that we've had the couple of movements. But anyway, balanced budget in general is absolutely brilliant, particularly given my knowledge of other councils that aren't in the same position that we are. So I think it's a solid budget, it's well put together, it's deliverable, which is really important, and I think it'll hit the sweet spot in a lot of communities across the whole of Tasman and not one particular area. So yeah, well done. Challenges ahead to deliver it. We've got full faith in the officers that are there to do this, but if you need the extra help outside of it, there's enough money in there to get project managers external. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other councillors wish to make comment? Obviously not. Well done to all the Kim and all the team, and hopefully you're getting a good handle on everything now as we move forward, and hopefully this world won't throw too many more challenges at us over the next few months, and we can start getting our economy back on track and get some people back into the Tasman. I'll put that to the vote. Councillor Garrett?
In favour.
Councillor Beard?
In favour.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Kennedy?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Yes, is carried unanimously. 16.8, the draft long-term financial plan from 2017 to 2037. The attachment 14. That also is an adjusted document that was sent through to the General Manager last night. Can I have a mover, please?
I'll move.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. And a seconder?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Deputy Mayor.
No, nothing to add or comment. Again, I just thanks for your comments, Councillor Beard, and I absolutely agree that it's been a lot of hard work from a few people to get to this point. So thanks very much, Manager.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Beard.
The only comment is I suppose our depreciation is something got to watch with the stormwater assets coming on board. The other thing is that how would we have gone 12 months ago predicting what the next 20 years is going to look like before COVID? So you've got to be Nostradamus to get these things even close. But what's important for me is the next 3 to 4 years, and really getting that, I suppose, a 4 to 5 year plan in place that we're comfortable with and takes us through as our term in council. And yeah, the latter time is really, finger in the wind stuff. But well done.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other councillors wish to comment? Okay, well done again, Kim and the team. I'll put that to the vote. Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Beard?
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Barwick?
Yes.
Councillor Kennedy?
Yes.
And yes, is carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to 16.9, a request for amendment amendment to municipal roadmap. Report attached. And a recommendation on page 52. Can I have a mover, please?
I'm happy to move the
Thank you, Deputy
recommendation
Mayor.
as it is.
And a seconder.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Deputy Mayor.
Obviously, we talked about these sorts of issues in the workshop this morning. We have discussed it previously. I agree wholeheartedly. The suggestion is there that we bring forward a policy. That was a great suggestion from Councillor Barwick to help guide the officers into the future with these sorts of requests. And there are already some broad guidelines there, which are stated in the report, and I accept that this is the right thing to do.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Garrett.
I don't have any further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Any other councillors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Beard.
Endorse the Councillor Stacey's sentiments all up. I suppose for me it's not a no. It's a no at this time, and we're going to be faced with this over and over. And I think getting a policy together and a well-informed policy that brings up a number of different scenarios and things and basically levers with which council can pull and assist potentially in getting these things through. So the policy is the hard work. Then we can go back to people such as this to actually articulate how you go about it rather than taking on a significant liability and financial, not so much, but financial investment from the rest of the ratepayers.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other councillors? Okay. Well, I think it's really good that we're going to push forward to develop a policy to deal with this matter, because it is hard for individual ratepayers to understand the reasons why we don't take on these roads, because at the end of the day it's their individual property that they're worried about. But we do have to be equal and fair around the municipality where we spend our money. So whilst it's hard to deny somebody their requests, I can certainly understand why at this stage we can't. So unless you've got anything else to say, Deputy Mayor, I'll put this to the vote. Deputy Mayor, you need to unmute.
My lips were moving. Sorry, I was just saying you had a very good point this morning, Mayor Spalding, about the issue with maintaining the little bit of road that we already maintain, and so on and so on. So I think that's great. We're going to bring that into a policy. So nothing further to say. I'm a yes to the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Garrett.
In favour.
Councillor Beard.
In favour.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Bowie.
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Yes, so it's carried unanimously. Item 17, authorisation to close to the public. Can I have a mover, please?
Yes.
Councillor Finnerty. A seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Garrett. Put that to the vote. Councillor Finnerty.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes.
Councillor Beard.
Yes.
Councillor Griffiths.
Yes.
Councillor Barwick.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
And a yes. So we will stop the recording at 2:19 p.m. and close to the public. It's carried unanimously.
Thank you.